Hi, this is Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about the Dungeons & Dragons Paramount 2021 movie and my top talent band determinations, right? So what does that mean by top talent band, right? So I'm getting very dialed into the Dungeons & Dragons film, right? So it was announced in like 2016, and then and it was with Warner Brothers, and it fell out. And then it bounced back, and I had to go back and say, hey, what happened to it? I haven't heard about it in well over a year. And it turns out it had moved over to Paramount, right? So I'm really getting dialed in. I'm trying to follow as close as I can what's happening to the Dungeons & Dragons Paramount 2021 film. By the way, that's when they've announced that they are expecting to deliver this movie, right? All right, so this is my casting of the top tier of talent. And so what is that? That is studio, director, screenwriter, okay? So there's a whole bunch of elements you need to put forward a movie, and this is what I would do if I had the license for Dungeons & Dragons Paramount 2021 movie. What would I make the studio? Who would I make the director, and who would I make the screenwriter, right? All right, so let's talk about it. So one, so the first one is studio, right? So if all this power belongs to me and I could just write whoever's going to be in it, and we could certainly do that as an intellectual exercise, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing this as an intellectual exercise. Also, kind of projecting out what I want. I'm a fan. I'm part of the D&D community, and we're very blessed. A lot of these large corporations actually do monitor what's being said on social media sites. So there's just like a hope and a prayer that this will go out, they'll hear this and maybe follow along. So basically, the first question, though, is what studio should have it? So it's already been pulled from Warner Brothers, right? And it ended up at Paramount. Would I pull it from Paramount? Well, the answer is no, right? So I actually think there's a lot of problems with it being at Paramount. But the reason I would leave it at Paramount is specifically this one specific reason, which has to do with Grace Randolph. I'm a big fan, huge fan of Grace Randolph. Grace Randolph is the #1 movie reviewer on the planet. She is on YouTube. I watch every single scrap of content she makes, and I think she's forgotten more about movie reviews than most movie reviewers will ever know. It's ridiculous. She covers it from the industry level. She really focuses on money, right? Which, and she's just really fantastic. She's great at her job, right? And because she's so in the weeds on films, right? She figures out things like 6 months to 2 years before anybody else does. And she's been saying something I think is absolutely 100% correct, and that is Disney's too far ahead, right? So one of the things she brought forward is that Disney, for the summer, got 60% of all the money, right, that was made to, this was reported about a week or two ago. She said, to that point, the majority of, most of the summer movie money has already been done. August doesn't get much, right? School's almost here. Disney got 60% of the box office, this is 2018 summer box office, by itself. All other companies, all other movie studios had to share 40% of the profits, right? And she's super down with Disney. She loves Disney, but she's like, this is a problem, right? They're really starting to run away with the market, right? And so that's why I think, honestly, Disney has Star Wars, Disney has Marvel. That is so much. They have all its Disney properties, Wreck-It Ralph. They have all the traditional Disney animation films. They have Pixar. Why put another pancake on top of their already high stack? Somebody else needs to win once in a while. And I think D&D is an awesome intellectual property, and it's going to be a winner if somebody executes right on it, right? And I think that Paramount should have a shot at that. They've screwed up a few things. They recently in my opinion, screwed up the Star Trek property, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a chance. And I think Paramount should have a chance. And I think Paramount is the studio that should put out Dungeons & Dragons. And the reason why is there's got to be a point where enough is enough. And right now, Disney's got enough. I'm a huge fan of both the Marvel series and the Star Wars series. But the other thing is, I don't think for a second that Disney could bring on another series and continue to crush it the way they normally do. There's got to be a point where somebody says, hey, this is a free market. Let's give somebody else a chance here. So I really think that D&D should remain with the Paramount studio. Okay, now it's kind of odd because I am alarmed by what happened with the Star Trek bounce out with James T. Kirk and with George T. Kirk. Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pine bouncing out for out of the talks. That's alarming, right? But I still think Paramount should have a shot. Who should the director be? All right, here we go. Jordan Peele from Get Out. And the reason why is, okay, there's a whole lot of reasons for this. One, I think Jordan Peele is an absolute genius, and Get Out was one of my absolute favorite films of 2017. He took a $5 million movie and made over $300 million with it. Its profit margin was probably the highest profit margin of any film in 2017. It was incredible. It was a tour de force, right? The other thing I really like about Jordan Peele is Key and Peele was a really cool comedy show, right? And they actually joked in the last. They made a really very direct joke in the last Key and Peele movie where Key had a whole bunch of movies lined up and he was doing cameos in movies, right? Well, when that was over, right? And they were like, "Oh, well, I guess you'll do some work too, Jordan Peele," and it was kind of a joke that like he would just kind of slide into obscurity and never really accomplish anything. And now Jordan Peele is one of the hottest directors is one of the hottest, most pursued directors in Hollywood. And the reason why is like everybody's like, "What's he going to do to follow up?" And he was talked very seriously, and actually he was lined up to do. He was very closely aligned with the Akira project, and they wanted to do a live action Akira, right? And that didn't actually come to fruition. And the reason why is the reason why most likely is Ghost in the Shell just tanked, right? So I really feel that Jordan Peele is just an A-class director. He's a genius. Get Out. He got himself a whole bunch of credit, which he gets to spend on his next movie. I don't think Jordan Peele is a huge D&D fan, but I don't think the director needs to be a huge D&D fan. They need to know how to make a good movie, and Jordan Peele knows how to make a good movie. And the other issue is Dungeons & Dragons has struggled in the past with gender and race issues. So, I'm going to say that. I mean, basically, without a doubt, like 5th edition fixed a lot of things in the art that were really not handled well in previous editions, right? And so I think Jordan Peele is going to ensure, I think he would ensure that some of the past some of the past sins of the Dungeons & Dragons IP would not be repeated, right? And that there would be equal representation across people other than white people. I'm going to say that, flat out. Like, mostly the creation of Dungeons & Dragons came from white dudes. That kind of echoed through a few different editions. It's now been fully recognized, in my opinion, and the company is doing what they can to fix it. But in the film, there's an opportunity to put more gender and race diversity within who's creating this film, and I think it's important, and I think Jordan Peele should get it. First and foremost, because he's an incredibly talented director, and second, because we need to be careful going forward that gender and race diversity continues to be, in my opinion, an important goal of the Dungeons & Dragons IP. And I think that, the company overall is thinking, WotC is thinking about this, Hasbro is thinking about it, and I think he'd be the best. And the other thing is, I think Jordan Peele has just a ton of goodwill within Hollywood, and I would like to rub that on Dungeons & Dragons, right? I think he'd just be a perfect director, right? The other thing is, so who will we get for the screenwriter, right? So my choice for screenwriter is Tom O'Connor. Well, who is he, right? Well, last year he wrote the screenplay for, he's a screenwriter for The Hitman's Bodyguard with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. And it was one of my favorite films of 2017. Tom O'Connor has not done a ton of work, but he did that movie, and that movie has awesome comedy, really good dialogue, incredible action, just super solid content. I loved it, right? It was just really good. There was a scene in there, with an action scene where it was with a motorcycle, a speedboat, and a canal, like in Europe. It was amazing. It was one of the best action scenes of 2017. But the whole movie was just solid. It really fit, and it was good. And I think Tom O'Connor could slam dunk this. The other thing is Tom O'Connor is coming up right? I think a lot of times once you get into Hollywood, like your head kind of gets big and everybody's been telling you you're awesome, and you go down like this weird road and you say, oh, I can be more artist than craftsman, you know. And I think right now, Tom O'Connor is more on the craftsman side, right? You know, and we need somebody to execute and execute well, and I think Tom O'Connor would absolutely execute and execute well. That is my top tier band of talent for D&D Paramount 2021 movies. That's how I would put it. I would have the studio be Paramount, I would have the director be Jordan Peele, and I would have that screenwriter be Tom O'Connor. I think that's the way to do it. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you very much.